When Daniel stepped out of his black limousine and stood at the small wooden gate of the house he once called home, he didn't know that a single gesture that day would change both their lives forever. 5 years had passed since he'd last seen her. 5 years since words of anger had turned into a silence that stretched like an endless winter. But today he wasn't here as a millionaire or a man of pride. He was here as someone who finally realized that some things money could never buy back, like forgiveness, love, or time. And when she opened the door, their eyes met, and the world stood still. Daniel Cross was the kind of man people whispered about when he walked into a room. A self-made millionaire, a name printed in magazines, a face on business covers. Success had shaped him, but loneliness had hollowed him out. 5 years ago, he had walked out of a small, cozy home in the countryside after a bitter argument with his wife, Elena. They had built that home with dreams, laughter, and plans that never made it past the pain of losing their unborn child. Back then, Daniel had drowned himself in work, chasing deals and power, pretending that success could fill the void. Elena, quiet and kind, had stayed behind, choosing peace over wealth, choosing solitude over chaos. He thought time would heal them both. It didn't. Now, standing before her door, Daniel's reflection in the window looked older, wearier. He knocked gently, half expecting her not to answer. But when the door creaked open, there she was, Elena, standing in a faded sweater, her eyes tired but still beautiful. "Daniel," she whispered, disbelief softening her tone. He nodded, trying to smile. "Hi, Lena. It's been a while." She didn't invite him in right away. For a moment, they just stood there, the cold air between them filled with everything they hadn't said in 5 years. Finally, she stepped aside. "You can come in, if you're not too busy." Inside, nothing had changed. The small photo of their wedding day still hung crookedly on the wall. The couch was the same one where they used to fall asleep watching old movies. Even the faint smell of her vanilla candles filled the air. "I saw your name on the news last week," she said, handing him a cup of tea. "You've done well." Daniel gave a faint chuckle. "Yeah, I have everything, except the one thing that mattered." Elena looked down, stirring her tea. "You always did know how to sound regretful after it's too late." Silence filled the room again, heavy and fragile. Then Daniel took something from his pocket, a small silver locket. "Do you remember this?" Her hands trembled when she saw it. Inside was a photo of them smiling, holding her pregnant belly. "I thought this was gone forever." "I found it in an old box last week," he said softly. "I don't know why I kept it, but it reminded me of what I lost." Tears welled in her eyes, but she turned away. "Daniel, why are you here?" He hesitated. "Because I'm tired of pretending that I don't miss you. That I don't miss us." She closed her eyes, her lips trembling. "You left when I needed you the most. When our world fell apart, you ran." "I know," he said quietly. "And I've lived with that regret every day. I can buy everything I want now, but I can't buy back that moment, or your trust." She didn't respond. Only the clock on the wall ticked softly, echoing the silence of two broken hearts. Then Daniel stood, placing the locket gently on the table. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today. I just needed to see you. To know that you're okay." When he turned to leave, she whispered, almost too softly to hear. "Daniel, wait." But he was already at the door. The next morning, Elena stepped out to check her mailbox and froze. There, parked outside her house, was a brand new white SUV. On the windshield, a letter was tucked under the wiper. Her hands shook as she opened it. "Elena, I know I can't fix the past, but maybe I can make the future a little easier for you. This isn't a gift to buy forgiveness, it's a way of saying thank you. For loving me when I had nothing. For being my reason before I lost my way. The house is yours now. I transferred the deed. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. Daniel." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she read the letter. She rushed back inside and sat at the kitchen table, the same place where they once dreamed of growing old together. Hours later, as rain began to fall, she found herself dialing a number she hadn't called in years. Daniel, she said when he answered. He sounded surprised. Elena? Why would you do all this? She asked, her voice breaking. There was a pause. Then he replied, his tone soft and sincere. Because I finally learned that love isn't about holding on, it's about setting someone free, even if it hurts. She closed her eyes, the tears falling freely now. You never gave up, did you? She whispered. I did once, he admitted. And I promised myself I'd never make that mistake again. The line went quiet. Then, for the first time in 5 years, Elena said the words that Daniel thought he'd never hear again. Come over tomorrow. We should talk. When he arrived the next day, he didn't bring gifts or flowers, just himself, humbler, older, real. They sat together for hours, talking about everything and nothing. There were tears, laughter, long silences, but this time, the silence didn't hurt. As the sun began to set, Elena reached out, gently taking his hand. Maybe, she said softly, some broken things aren't meant to be thrown away. Maybe they're meant to be rebuilt. Daniel smiled through his tears. Then let's rebuild, slowly, together. And when they hugged for the first time in years, it wasn't a grand moment of passion. It was something deeper, peace. Two souls finding their way back home.